its basic strategic analysis can be reduced to one formula. One formula. Arabs only understand the language of force. That's what they keep saying. Arabs only understand the language of force. When they get out of hand, you have to take out the big club and you have to break their skulls. Every once in a while, you have to take out that club and remind them who's in charge. But now, with the regional powers arrayed against Israel, and no longer in a state of backwardness, with U.S. power on the decline, Israel trembles at the prospect that it might actually have to negotiate with Egyptians, with Turks, and with other Arab Muslim neighbors, negotiate with them, and not just lord it over them. And this is the prospect Israel dreads. That's the real threat of the Egyptian revolution. And that's why Israel and the U.S. dread democracy in the Arab Muslim world, because they won't be able to push the people around anymore, and they won't just have the most obsequious, revolting sycophants at their beck and call. In practical terms, right after the Egyptian revolution, the first thing the Israelis said, right after the Egyptian revolution, the Israelis said, the attack on Iran is off. Why? Well, listen to what they said. Why? The new leaders in Egypt will listen to Arab public opinion, which opposes a preemptive war against Iran. Israel will find it difficult to take action far to the east when it cannot rely on a tacit agreement to its actions on its western border, meaning Egypt. Without Mubarak, there is no Israeli attack on Iran. His replacement now listen to why, because it's about you. Without Mubarak, there is no Israeli attack on Iran. His replacement will be concerned about the rage of the Egyptian masses if they see him as a collaborator in such an operation. And for the same reasons, an attack on Gaza is not off the agenda. And that means the spread of real democracy in the Arab Muslim world means the prospects have never been better for a just and lasting peace of the Israel-Palestine conflict. I think we should not waste time, not squander energy on looking on the folks on high to free us or to liberate us. Mr. Barack Obama is scheduled to give a speech on Thursday on the Arab Muslim world and revolutions. I would strongly advise turn off all the for those of you who are capable of controlling your Twitter digits, for the parents in the room, I would suggest tying rubber bands around those thumbs so you're not exposed to any of that nonsense that vaporizes from this eternally sermonizing president. And get on with the real business of trying to make it a better world. Exactly. making Egypt as part of humanity, to make the place a better place. Well, they told you. They're very straightforward what they fear. They said they fear the rage of the masses. And so you have to keep transmitting the message that you will not accept now and for the foreseeable future, even ever, the business as usual of those last 30 horrendous years. I've been involved in this conflict now for some 30-something years, about 30 years. I started getting involved in 1982 in Israel and Lebanon. And it's a very sobering thought that your entire adult life is past, and you're focused on this tiny, tiny little pinprick of the world's map. The range of knowledge is so broad and has such depth, and I devoted my entire adult life to memorizing every period and every comma on this Israel-Palestine conflict. And so, of course, there are moments when you doubt, was it really worth it? Was there a point to it? But I have to say now, for the first time in a very long time, I feel hopeful, because I feel like the people have been stirred, the people have awakened, in particular in Egypt. And there's now hope. There's now, yes, I know. Yeah. There's now hope. And I think that there's reason to be reasonably optimistic that there's the late American Palestinian writer Edward Said. He liked to quote the Caribbean poet Edmund Césaire. In the line he liked to quote, he said, "There's room for everyone at that rendezvous of victory." There's room for everyone at that rendezvous of victory. I think that maybe it just might be that we're approaching that rendezvous of victory. But I hope everybody will take to heart the words that Professor Said liked to quote. He said there's room for everyone. It was an interesting remark because most people, when they think of victory, they think of victors and vanquish. But Said was saying, quoting him, he says, there's room for everyone. Just be fair. Just be reasonable. If you're reasonable, if you're fair, there's room for everyone at that rendezvous victory. What does it mean? It means, first of all, we have to be principled. And principle is not an abstract concept. Principle has a concrete meaning. Palestinians have certain rights under international law. The law is very clear. The West Bank, Gaza, and East Jerusalem are occupied Palestinian territory. Israel has no right to 1 inch of the West Bank, Gaza, or East Jerusalem. Bear in mind that when you're applauding, it may disappoint you, you're not applauding a radical statement. 1948, and those of succeeding generations shall maintain genuine lease to the land, they have the right to return. That's the law. And so our first task is to be principled, to uphold the law. And then the second task, in my opinion, is to be reasonable. And being reasonable means showing the other side that there is a way out. But it doesn't have to go on through eternity. There's a way out. It doesn't have to come to some apocalyptic climax. But if you're reasonable and if you're fair, there's room for everyone at the rendezvous of victory. Does it sound reasonable? Does it sound fair? That it's okay if Palestinians go to bed at night hungry, so long as they're not starving. 60% of the Palestinian population in Gaza is under 18 years of age. Is it fair? Is it reasonable that about 750,000 children, so long as they're not starving, it's okay to go to bed hungry at night? Does that sound fair? Does it sound reasonable? Just be fair, be reasonable, and I think we can achieve that settlement. You know, I am determined. This may sound very selfish, but I am determined before I pass from that scene to get to that rendezvous of victory. Now, I don't know if I'm going to be jogging there. Unlikely, my bones are beginning to creak. I don't know if I'm going to be walking there, a higher likelihood, or I may need a cane, I may need a wheelchair, I may need a stretcher with life supports, and Ahmed is going to have to hold one of the bars in that stretcher. I don't know how I'm going to get there. I'm determined to see that day just like you saw your day